much. A little bit of pressure following that. That was fantastic. Well done. So, 5 minutes. I wanted to bring to you one of the principles and a little bit of what it means to me in Scotland, what I think it means to us in Scotland, and a little bit about how and why we deliver it this way in Scotland. The first thing to say about filling the emotional tank is that as a Scotsman, as Scottish people, we are awful at talking about and dealing with emotions. We just don't do it. We don't like it at all. And the language of filling the emotional tank for lots of people can be quite off-putting and it can be quite cheesy. But for me, that's why I think it works for Scotland, and that's why we like it. We actually tried and thought about different ways we could put it across, and we couldn't Scotify it. We tried to Scotify a lot of this, and we couldn't do it. And the reason was that this sticks. People remember it, and they really get it. So it provides us with a mechanism of what opens up a door for communication to speak about emotions, basically, which we don't really have and we're not good at. And that can be between coaches to other coaches, coaches to other parents, but obviously between coaches and their athletes. So, I was going to show you a video, but it's far too technical. Ruben couldn't help me with that, so we left it.
You just trained his back.
Just trained the tank. I'll go into sarcasm later. That's a
Good.
So, one of our tutors said in a short clip that, and I think this sums up our role as coaches and parents about the emotional tank, that we need to fill their tank up, make them feel good about themselves, and feel confident so we get 100% out of them. And I think she said that very well in a really broad Scottish accent, so maybe the video wouldn't have worked that well. So there's two things for me in the emotional tank. The first thing, or the first word that I use a lot with this principle, is the word coachable. For me, it's about making sure that my juniors, I'm a golf coach, I coach juniors at golf. The first thing for me is about making them coachable, making sure they're in that coachable state of mind. And the story that always rings true with me is I had a little girl come along to the session, and a few weeks previous, the emotional tank was fairly new to me. This was a few years ago, and we'd spoken about the emotional tank. We taught it, we discussed it, and she came in, and she'd had a fight with her mum at home, and she came into the session, and she tugged my shirt, and she said, "My emotional tank's drained." And I thought, right, great. So now I know it's my role as a coach that she's not going to learn very much today unless her emotional tank is up here and she's in that state of mind. So what I'd like you to do now is get a partner, just where you're sitting, and I'd like you to take a look at this image that's on the screen. And I'd like you to think about what this image represents to you, and in your coaching, have you seen this in your coaching, and what did you do about that situation or something similar? So how you relate to that, to a scenario like that in your coaching, and what did you do about it? Okay, so you've got 1 minute.
Great sideline.
First thing I could say is
That's really good. Yeah, all right. Okay.
and it's just then you say,
Let's stop it there, guys. Okay, thank you. So we'll pretend that we had 15 minutes and we had a feedback session, but because we're on short time, we'll skip that. And we're going to go to the next image. So slightly different scenario, and I said it meant two things to me, and the second thing it means to me, and we speak about this a lot in Scotland with our clubs, with our coaches, with our plans and strategies and all the rest of it, is about providing a quality experience for sport, for young people in sport. And that's what this image says to me. So what I'd like you to do again, with a different partner this time, so maybe turn around the other way, have a think about a time when you've seen this in your coaching or your parenting, and how you provided that quality experience, how you knew as a coach or as a parent you provided that quality experience in that particular session. How did you know? How did you know? What was the reaction? How did you know? Okay, you've got 30 seconds this time. Off you go.
Whatever it is, I'll it's the whole thing. Hey, I really care about it. It's not just good job what they did. Yeah. Right, definitely. I think so. I think it's we are smiling too much. Even if they we actually
Okay, let's stop there.
I'm at
I'll get the hang of it one day, but obviously not right now. Okay, so again we'll pretend we had more time, and usually we would have went into a bit of feedback and discussion, and we draw out some of what we spoke about in our pairs. But just to try and summarise all of that, and again try and put this into how we put it across with our Scottish coaches and our Scottish parents. There's two key points to filling and draining, or to the emotional tank, and one of those is to drain the emotional tank, the other is to fill the emotional tank. The obvious ones there to drain the tank are around criticism. I mentioned earlier that in Scotland we use a lot of sarcasm. And sarcasm for us is very important. Important. It's a little bit of a way of life sometimes. It's just how we have conversation. We use it a lot. But I think it's important to make the point that if you use sarcasm in the wrong way, with kids that you don't know, or kids that don't get it, it can have the wrong effect. And I'm going to say, the reason I used it earlier with Ruben is that I now know Ruben, and he knew that I was being sarcastic, didn't you, Ruben? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Ignoring effort, we speak about that a lot, and body language, and how that can have such an effect on a young person just by ignoring their effort. In a golf context, we have, we're coaching at the driving range, we've got 10, 12 kids lined up, and I hate to see that with our volunteer coaches, 10, 12 kids lined up in a row and the coach is going along one by one. It's easy to not see and ignore the kids at the other end, and they don't get as much time as maybe the ones at the start of the line, and that's an issue for me in the way that we even set up our coaching. And I think that's something we need to consider. So lots of different ways that we can drain the tank. But filling the tank is really crucial. And praising truthfully and specific is something that we try to hit home really hard. A lot of people, when they see positive coaching, they see happy talk. They see, well done, that's great, fantastic. And that is great, but a lot of the time that's very meaningless without context and without specifics. So I'll give an example. At the driving range, I've seen a lot of parents, and they'll say to their kids, they'll probably have a 4-year-old with a 4-iron that's an adult size for starters, which isn't too great. And they'll see the kid, and the kid will hit a shot, and the kid knows that, he's probably topped it a few yards along the ground. The kid knows it wasn't a great shot. The parent's going, yeah, well done, that's fantastic. And you think, well, right, so what's he taking from that? He's getting the wrong message from that, and he knows that the coach or the parent in that situation, it doesn't really mean anything. So in that scenario, I try to explain that when we're getting the specifics across, yes, you can say well done, but well done about what? Well done, your grip was in the right position, your ball position's correct, your timing was very good. And you pick out 2 or 3 specifics and highlight that. And that for me is what coaching is about. It's not just happy talk. So we really try and reinforce that with our coaches at home, and hopefully that's starting to make a difference. the other things there we can speak about all day, listening and showing appreciation and using positive body language again. Scottish people, you've seen Colin Montgomery, body language is not something that he's been blessed with. So we have to make a point of that, and we have to try and be positive. So that's me. Thank you very much.